Novel writer Ben Mears returns to a quiet town called Salem where he grew up, and has an affair with a girl named Susan. But the provincial idyll does not last long. Besides Ben, in Salem arrives the ancient vampire Barlow, who slowly begins to turn other residents of the town into his own kind. Stephen King is one of the most screened writers in history. In the 38 years since the release of Carrie, the first screen adaptation of his prose, there have been several hundred films and TV series based on his novels and stories. King's key books, like Pet Sematary, It or The Dead Zone, have been adapted several times each, and from the short story Children of the Corn grew a powerful franchise spanning 11 films. Salem's Lot is also based on the Stephen King novel, which is also not the first time it has been transferred to the screens. In 1979, there was a 3-hour miniseries, which 8 years later received a full-length sequel, and a quarter of a century later it was reshot, again in the form of a miniseries. The new full-length adaptation of the novel, which was first talked about in the late 10s, promised to be a big event in the genre, because it was to be produced by James Wan and Roy Leigh, the great masters of horror, and to be written and directed by Gary Dauberman, screenwriter of the franchises Annabelle and The Nun, as well as co-writer of another adaptation of Stephen King hit. But something went wrong. Finished back in 2022, the film sat on the studio shelf for a year before becoming a Max Online streaming exclusive, meaning the studio decided not to release it in theaters, which is usually a very bad sign. In an interview, Dauberman said that the original version of the movie was 3 hours long, which means that about an hour of material was decided to be removed, and it shows. The events of the book seem to be in place, but everything that surrounds them, everything that makes them so creepy, was left somewhere off-screen. So what we got on release was a mediocre horror ride with flat, unrevealed characters, dashed relationships between them, crumpled exposition and a chewed-up third act, in which the plot suddenly goes into overdrive so that everything that happens merges into a blurry jumble in which neither suspense nor emotion can be discerned. The actors don't help either, none of them gives a truly outstanding performance. But in terms of pure visuals, however, Salem's Lot is not bad. The movie has a distinct visual style, and the main vampire, reminiscent of Count Orlok from the classic film Nosferatu by Friedrich Murnau, looks old-school terrifying. In general, Salem's Lot follows the events of King's book relatively closely, but contains a couple of innovations, quite expected from the movie in 2024. For example, a brave kid Mark, who realizes faster than anyone else that vampires are in town, is now African American, and the local Dr. Cody has been changed from a white man to a black woman. If these changes make anyone feel better, why not? But it would have been better if the authors had put their creativity and talent into the drama, which this version of the novel, unfortunately, tragically lacks.